What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I want to talk about some of my struggles collecting for the N-Gage. The N-Gage is a set of mine that I've been collecting pretty aggressively for a little while, and I've had a few struggles when collecting for the console, and while I don't have a complete set for the N-Gage yet, I am pretty darn close to it. But I will be sharing in this video some of my collecting horror stories, some of the things that I'm going through now collecting for the console itself, along with a few backgrounds and a few stories here and there when it comes to collecting for the N-Gage. So without further ado, let's jump right into this video's topic right after the intro. Before, in this day and age, when it came to mobile phones being easily able to play games on the go within a moment's notice, there used to be the N-Gage, which launched back in 2003, which happened to be the first mobile cell phone, if not one of the first mobile cell phones, that would allow for gamers to play video games on the go. This launched around during the time when the Game Boy Advance dominated the market, and this console did not sell well at all, launching at a price tag of $300 in the United States. The console would discontinue later on down the line and would only have a lifespan about 2 to 3 years, with its last games being released in 2006, with a total of 54 games released in North America. Now, of course, the N-Gage was a pretty interesting little device. After all, this thing was a cell phone, which was also a handheld game console, which obviously allowed you to play video games on the go. This thing was truly ahead of its time before today, where essentially you can easily play video games on your phone and nobody really thinks about it, right? It's just common practice, everybody does it, yada yada yada, right? But of course, this thing was pretty interesting when it first came out. Unfortunately, I really wanted to get this thing back when it came out, but it was a $300 handheld, which was pretty steep for me back during the time. But unfortunately, like I said, I wouldn't be able to have access to it until many years down the line, where thankfully now I have an N-Gage and a bunch of games to come with it. It has a pretty interesting library that I do think is pretty diverse. I think it has a pretty good quality lineup of games, and we'll dive more into that as the video continues on. Now, when I got my N-Gage back many years ago, I was pretty excited to finally try out the handheld that I wanted to get as a kid but simply could not get. As you can see right here, I have the QD model, and I do not have the original model that most collectors consider the Taco, because essentially how you would use it when you are calling people is you would hold it up to your ear like this with the original model, and it would essentially look like you're holding a giant taco up against your ear. Essentially, Nokia would fix this issue later down the line, but unfortunately I don't remember how you hold the phone itself to talk to people. And interestingly, when you get the N-Gage itself, you actually need to have a SIM card inside of it. Don't worry, you don't need to get a cell phone contract or any of that. Even if you just pop in a dummy SIM card or just a dead SIM card, that's good enough to make this thing fire up, which was pretty surprising because when I first got it, I wanted to play some games and I was like, oh, great, I can't actually play this. And I looked online and I saw, yep, you need a SIM card to make the thing work. So that's one thing that you are going to have to keep in mind if you ever decide to collect for the N-Gage, get an N-Gage and all that. You need is a dead or a dummy SIM card. Like I said, you don't need a cell phone contract, thank God, but you do need a SIM card of some kind to pop into the N-Gage before you can start playing games. Now, up above me when it comes to this shelf right here is my N-Gage collection. The N-Gage has a pretty interesting library of games, and I do have to say, I really think that Nokia along with its third-party support, was able to pump out a relatively interesting library of games with some good quality titles in there. It's got Sonic, it's got Call of Duty, Crash Bandicoot, Tomb Raider, the Tom Clancy games. It has a pretty interesting library of games. It even has some underrated titles on there, such as Puyo Pop from the Puyo Puyo series. And interesting enough, there is an Elder Scrolls game on the N-Gage itself. So interestingly, that is also a game that is relatively rare and collectible for the N-Gage, because after all, Elder Scrolls has been known for Skyrim and Oblivion, and those games have been top tier quality games. I've enjoyed those games myself, and of course, being a relatively successful gaming franchise that Elder Scrolls is, it is only natural that a game such as Elder Scrolls, or one of the Elder Scrolls entries onto the N-Gage, would easily become rare and collectible, considering how poorly the N-Gage did, therefore making the game sell poorly. And now, since of course Elder Scrolls has had a lot of fame and success over the years, it has made the price of the game go up. Of course, talking about some of my struggles when it comes to collecting for the N-Gage is finishing the set. Currently, I have 52 games out of the 54 for the North American library, and the only reason that I cannot get the last 2 games for the N-Gage is that no one is selling the last 2 games that I need for the N-Gage. There's only 2 games that I need, which happen to be Asphalt 2 and a Warhammer 40,000 game. Once I get those 2, I will have the complete North American set for the N-Gage, and it is very hair-pulling and frustrating because I've looked on Google Shopping, Amazon, eBay. I've looked high and low. I've set up email alerts through eBay, so in case that there are any listings containing the keywords of Asphalt GT2 and N-Gage, I will get an email notifying me that such a listing is put up. And I've just had not a lot of luck, and I really want to finish this set. After all, I'm only 2 games away, and I can't even finish it because I just can't get the last 2 games needed. Of course, I don't mind collecting a few variants here and there during the wait, and also looking for other consoles to finish. For those that have been following the channel for a little bit recently, you will already know that I am trying to work on finishing the Sega Dreamcast set, which I'm a little more than halfway done with finishing the set. So that is something that I can work on while trying to finish the N-Gage set. But yeah, it's very frustrating, is because I would love to get those last 2 games for the N-Gage. Now, of course, another struggle that I have to talk about when it comes to collecting for the N-Gage was getting this little bad boy right here, Civilization. This, I have to say, is probably the rarest, if not one of the rarest, N-Gage games to collect for. I paid about $660 through an eBay auction several years ago, where essentially this was just put up on an auction, and I really wanted to finish the N-Gage set because I was just getting so close to finishing it, right? And I did not know how expensive this thing was going to go for, and I was just very fortunate that I was able to pick this thing up for $660. Normally, I do not have that type of money laying around where I can just easily spend on a video game, but you know, during that time, I was flipping a lot of stuff, consoles locally, games locally that I would try to sell online. I had a lot of luck with that during that time, so thankfully that was able to help pay for this really expensive copy right here. I told a buddy of mine at the time that I felt like this could also be seen as an investment. I thought this was a game that I could easily sell later down the line in the future if I wanted to. Keyword if I wanted to, is because I'm a completionist, so normally I like to just get everything that I don't have, right? But I told my buddy that I thought this thing could easily be worth $1,000 complete in box. And later down the line, I saw people on eBay literally selling this thing for $1,000 complete in box. It was crazy. Another thing I want to talk about right here with one of my struggles was this little black thing right here. Interestingly, I hit the seller up when I was trying to bid on this, and I asked him if it was like part of the UPC got rid of, or like a sticker put over it and all that. And I guess apparently some of these later N-Gage games did have these little black seals on the UPC for whatever reason. I forget. So thankfully it wasn't like a huge deal, and I saw that there were other N-Gage games later down the line that I would look to see that they did have that. But I'm sure you could see during that one part I did scratch some of the black off because I wanted to just have some of that barcode right there. But I obviously didn't finish it, was because I just was very concerned of possibly damaging the insert. So that was another struggle of mine, was checking to see the whole black strip thing, and of course acquiring this little thing here that I can truthfully say is the most expensive game that I've ever paid for in my game collection. An interesting little thing that I had a little bit of a headache with when it came to collecting for the N-Gage was there were these little plastic things on the inside that you would use, where essentially you would fold these up and they would kind of be like little storage containers or like plastic carrying cases that you would use for like various N-Gage games. But essentially they would come right here in the box, and you would just put them in like such, and just give me a moment. There we go. And you would just put them in the case just like that. What was a little bit of a headache when it came to collecting for some of these N-Gage games was that some of these games that were supposedly meant to be complete in box were missing some of those little plastic cases, where at some point I did find a seller on eBay where they were selling just those little plastic cases, where I think I only bought like 1 or 2 of them, because thankfully most of my complete in box games that I got weren't missing those. But thankfully, like I said, I did find a seller where they were able to sell just that, where I picked them up, I put them in the game, and there you go. But that is one thing that I did have a little bit of a struggle with when it came to the collecting, were like the little plastic cases that were supposed to come with complete in box games. Another little annoyance that I had when it came to collecting for the N-Gage were the Gold Master kits. Essentially what the Gold Master kits were, if I remember correctly from one of John Hancock's videos that he's talked about when it comes to collecting for the N-Gage, are like essentially they're the exact same game that you would get off of a store shelf, but it would come with a lot of other things that would be used to help promote the game through retailers and other promoters. So essentially it was like a special copy of the game that would be more tailored to retail owners and sort of advertisers and promoters or whatever, where it would come with like a demo disc along with other little features that you normally wouldn't get with a store released retail copy for the N-Gage. Now, me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with collecting the Gold Master kits. With my personal collecting preferences, I would rather have the retail releases of the games, which the reason why I say like the Gold Master kits are a bit of an annoyance for me was because some of the games that I would be trying to look for a while would only be online or like available or whatever, where I would just only see copies available of the Gold Master kits. For a while, I was really struggling to get the copies of High Seas and Mile High Pinball, but thankfully I was able to obtain the original retail release copies later down the line. And I have seen copies of Warhammer 40,000 along with Asphalt GT2 through Gold Master kits. I'm not opposed to owning the kits at some point or another, but like I said, I would rather have the retail release copies than the Gold Master kits. But like I said, I'm not opposed to having one day of having the Gold Master kits. But, you know, if you're like me when you were trying, if you're like me trying to find the regular store release copies and all you're finding is Gold Master kits, I think you kind of can see where that would be a little annoying. Alright, and that is going to conclude my video for some of my personal struggles and some of my little stories when it comes to collecting for the N-Gage. What do you guys think? This was a newer concept that I wanted to try with this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, feel free to comment in the comment section down below. And also please do the same thing if you did not enjoy it. Tell me why you didn't like it, or if you did like it, tell me what I can improve on, not improve on, what you liked about it, all that good stuff. Right, if you did enjoy the video, give it a like, helps boost it up into the YouTube algorithm so more viewers such as you can find videos just like this. Of course, please do consider subscribing because I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, other game related subjects. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, please do consider subscribing. But if you're going to subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell notification button so that way you will be notified when I upload a video just like this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be seeing you guys next time.